This Civic Media podcast is sponsored by UW Organ and Tissue Donation. Organ donations are desperately needed, and now is the right time to become an organ donor. Talk to your family. Get the dot. Save lives. Go to heroicdeed.com.
And welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. Again, K5 Construction, a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to the final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. I am Chad Holmes, joined again by Jeff Gress. Welcome back.
It feels good. I feel like a lot of the people I talk to, they love hockey, but
they missed you.
Yeah, they missed the sound of this scratchy voice talking, trying to sound like he knows what he's talking about.
Well, that's two of us. Been wearing out my voice because a lot of high school athletics recently. And tonight we'll be talking about what's been going on in basketball and hockey. Plus, our guests coming up at 6:25. Our coach guest for this week from Marathon High School, their girls basketball coach Jeff Schneider. 6-1 on the season, winners of 5 games in a row. We'll talk to Coach Schneider coming up in just a little bit. And then in hour number 2, we'll start things off at 7:06 with our student athlete guest from Northland Lutheran High School, senior Andrew Wickman. So there are 4-3 so far on the season. So those are our guests tonight here on the program. But since we have Coach Jeff Schneider of the girls Marathon Red Raiders, I thought we'd start off with the girls action in high school basketball. Talk about the boys later in the hour. Wisconsin Valley Conference in girls hoops. You got Marshfield 2-0 in the conference. They're 3-2 overall. Then Stevens Point undefeated at 1-0. 5-2 overall. The rest of the conference has been struggling. You have Merrill, Wausau West, and DC Everest 1-1 in the conference, 3-4 for Merrill overall, 3-4 for Everest, and 1-8 for Wausau West. Wisconsin Rapids 0-1 in the conference, 1-6 overall, and Wausau East 0-2 in the league, 0-5 overall. Some of the action in girls basketball in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. In the conference, Friday night had 3 games. Stevens Point beat Wausau West 74-40. It was 27-18 at halftime for the Panthers, but they outscored the Warriors 47-22 in the second half. Jada Seibert had 20 points. Ellie Strong 18 for Spash. Ayla Christensen led the Warriors with 12 points. Also on Friday, Marshfield had to battle DC Everest. Evergreens playing much tougher basketball this season under new head coach Lauren Bolus. It was 14-13 at halftime, but then the Tigers pulled away for the win, 47-36. Grace Sandquist had 9, Ella Eckhoff 8 for the Evergreens. And Merrill won their first conference game of the season, beating Wausau East 57-41 on Friday night. Brenna Jirovec had 20. Kayla Clairvaux 19 for the Blue Jays. We'll talk about some of the non-conference games from last night, but in terms of conference, it looks like early Stevens Point is the cream of the crop in that conference, and then maybe Marshfield, and then everybody else trying to beat up on each other, I think, work their way towards third.
Yeah, I just think based on scores you've seen, the way they've, played so far in the conference, that Marshfield Spash are going to be kind of duking it out on who either pulls apart that one win when they face each other. Looking forward to seeing what that matchup is between the Tigers and the Panthers. But the other teams, just based on what you see when they're playing the heavy hitters that are at the top right now, those scores are a little bit far away, so it makes it tough for them to be in that competitive nature. But you never know. That's kind of what the conference is about. You get a sleeper on something, you get a team that shows up. So I think that it's going to be top heavy with Marshfield and Spash, with somebody looking to upset them along the way to help that other conference champion out.
And Marshfield did not play in the conference. I should say they did play in the conference, but they played a non-conference game last night and beat Holman 60-50. And one thing that kind of jumped out was the balance for Heidi Michaels' team. Mackenzie Holman had 18 points. to lead 4 different Marshfield players in double figures. They lost their first couple of games. They've now won 3 in a row. Stevens Point was dominant over a struggling Chippewa Falls, 85-32. Jada Seibert, 27 points. Just an incredibly talented sophomore, really. Said it last year. If you have a chance to see her play, it will be well worth the time. Lindsay Weiler, 19 points, 10 rebounds. Lee Alwee had 10. Last night as well, Wausau West ran into the Christina Wilmette-led buzzsaw of Lakeland. Lakeland beat the Warriors 72-23. Wilmette had 34 points in that game for the T-Birds. And on Monday, DC Everest had a very good non-conference opponent, undefeated Wittenberg-Burnhamwood, and the Chargers beat the Evergreens 50-32. So, again, those non-conference games sort of continue the narrative, I think, in terms of who's at the top and maybe who's still trying to work their way up when it comes to the WVC.
And, I like the fact that you're getting, DC Everest getting out and challenging against another good area team, Wittenberg-Burnhamwood. West playing Lakeland. Those are good games. I think that's, at the end of the day, you almost have 2 seasons here. What do you get done before Christmas? And then you evaluate your team and see what's working for us, what we need to improve, and balance it from that, because there's so much time to play afterwards, and some of these teams get really heavy in their conference schedule, and hopefully some of those games that what is labeled right now as a lower tier of the Wisconsin Valley Conference, because of wins and losses or how they're playing non-conference in terms of their scores, will pay off where they can sneak in there and get one. You got teams that they're looking to upset and maybe make that a little bit more interesting conference race. But like you said, the scores are kind of playing out as it's labeled by record-wise, correct?
And one of the things that always add is winter sports season is a very long campaign, and teams do either get better, they stay the same, or sometimes they may go the opposite direction based on injuries and the like. So again, whatever we say here can always change depending on how things do develop, and especially as we get past the holidays. And you said exactly, a lot of the conference action really picks up once we get into the month of January.
And you love that analysis. You want to see things change. Teams, that's what this is about. Coaches, players evaluating and deciding what they can do more to take that jump level. And that's why we see so many teams. Sometimes you don't see much of them in the season, then they just peak at that playoff time because they keep chipping away at the improvements and the things they want to change from weaknesses to strengths in their basketball program.
Great Northern Conference. Right now, Rhinelander and Lakeland are 3-0. Rhinelander 6-1 overall. Lakeland 6-2. Tomahawk is 2-0 in the conference. 4-2 overall. Mosinee 1-1. They're 5-1 overall. And then Northern Pines, Medford, and Antigo all looking for their first conference win. Some of the conference activity in the GNC occurred also on Friday. Mosinee defeated Medford 53-43. Peyton Jershely, 13 points, 7 rebounds. Abby Clues, 10 points, 10 boards for Mosinee. Lakeland got some numbers, beating Antigo 85-14. Christina Wilmette, 30 points. Sailor Timmerman, 12 points, 13 rebounds. Ava Evenhouse, 13 points. Rhinelander, again, looking very solid, beating Pines 70-22. Vivian Lamertz, 20 points. Auburn Clark, 18 for Rhinelander. And last night, some non-conference play. We mentioned Lakeland beating West. Crandon beat Tomahawk. Pines lost to Florence. Medford lost to Rice Lake. So right now, looking at some of the GNC, obviously Lakeland's got incredible talent, but Rhinelander got those scores. It seems like Rhinelander every year has the scores, don't they?
Yeah. Well, and what I look at sometimes early on to see if we can see any leeway with one team or the other is that they have similar scores that they're beating some of these teams by. The problem is what you're going to see in the next couple conference games over Friday is not a big change. Lakeland should win, Rhinelander should win, but again, it makes it interesting to see what those coaches can throw at it, because Rhinelander, they have kids that can put it in the basket too, and Clark and Lamers, and that'll be interesting when they play Lakeland and that stuff comes up with Wilmette and those girls, and just to kind of see where it stands, because it's on the line when it's those conference games. There's extra pickup. People have those rivalries, and you come to play because what's at stake to be on top of that conference.
And Mosinee being 5-1, and their only loss was up in Minocqua. Took Lakeland as close as anybody in the GNC in a while. So obviously they're going to have to hold serve against some good competition, but at the same time, they have to feel like they have an opportunity when Lakeland comes to Mosinee later.
Yeah, well, they challenge themselves in the non-conference schedule. I think over break they're playing St. Mary's Catholic and Wittenberg. And I think they're going to be up there too. It's going to be kind of a three-headed battle, and we'll see who gets somebody on a home and away. Because Mosinee has that scoring punch too. Jersley can put the ball in the basket. There's other girls that can play in there, and it's nice to see that they're trying to continue that success, because sometimes they have a new coach, first-year coach, and that doesn't always happen right away when that coach is getting in their foundation and starting to put in their strategies and working with the program the way they see fit. So I think it'll be a good battle at the end of the day, and we'll see. Tomahawks 2-0 right now. We'll see if the schedule played into their favor, or they have Rhinelanders. So we'll see what they're made of when they play Friday.
Merriwood South, very interesting. A lot of teams off to good starts. You have Assumption and Stratford, both 5-0 in Merriwood play. And, of course, the crossover games count as conference games in the Merriwood. But they're both undefeated overall, 7-0. Marathon, again, off to a good start. They're 4-1, 6-1 overall. Their only loss came to Stratford. Auburndale, 3-2 in the conference, 5-2 overall. Newman Catholic, 1-4 in the league, 1-6 overall. Edgar still looking for that first conference win, 0-5, 2-6. And last Friday, there was a night of crossovers. Always interesting to see the crossover games. I think the most intriguing one in terms of South-North was Auburndale-Phillips, because Phillips has been very good in recent years, but Auburndale able to hold serve, beating Phillips 48-38. Rose Hassan-Orl, 10 for Auburndale. Matea Eckert, 23 for Phillips. Otherwise, it was, again, a mixture. We've seen the North start to win a few of these games, and they won a couple. It was Abbotsford winning at Newman Catholic 48-45, and Prentice winning at Edgar 59-51. But for the most part, again, the top teams of the Merriwood South were successful. Marathon, a good win against Rib Lake, who's in first place in the Merriwood North. Raiders beat Rib Lake 57-43. Miley Halkey 14, Emma Love and Macy Miska had 11 for Marathon. Also, Stratford all over Athens, 57-17, and Assumption beat Chequamegon 75-19. But you look at these teams, Assumption came in, I think, as the favorite with a lot of experience, a lot of talent that took them to the sectional final, I believe, a year ago. But to see Stratford really jump out, and we saw last night Stratford in a conference game beating Auburndale 51-31. Carly Pankratz had 16, Tria Tubbs 10 for Stratford. So, again, Stratford right now looks to be maybe, I don't know if you call it a surprise, but they've moved their way right near the top of that conference.
Well, that's one of the teams we've always talked about in this conference with their ladies team at Stratford, is that they just kind of play to their style, how they, the scores were always low, so they were always playing defense, keeping teams in check. And their question mark was how many points they can put on the board. Can they keep things? In check when they got a high octane team? Can they score enough to win that game, even though they play pretty good defense? So it's going to be interesting. And some of the other things they always talk about is Stratford, usually a lot of big girls, a lot of tall girls. Right. So it'll be interesting to see when they wrap with Assumption if these records stay the same and where they're at. But right now, again, looking at similarity of scores, they had big gaps in their crossover games. And as far as you look at some of the other teams, not a lot of surprises, like you said, with the top teams winning out and beating the North as they should.
We'll get more on Marathon coming up with Jeff Schneider in just a few minutes. Merriwood North, Rib Lake is in first place. They're 4-1 in the conference, 5-2 overall. You got Phillips and Prentice, 3-2. 4-2 for Phillips, 4-4 for Prentice. Athens and Abbotsford are both 1-4 in the league. Chequamegon still looking for that first win. Mentioned the crossovers. Again, it looks as though I think that the South ahead of the North, but it looks like an interesting battle lining up with Rib Lake off to a good start. We mentioned a couple of weeks ago, it looks like they're back, being a threat like they used to be. They're actually making deep runs and being a very tough team in the northern part of the state. But Phillips continues to have Matea Eckert filling it up, and Prentice right there as well.
Well, yeah, if you take Rib Lake, their only loss, looking back on it, Friday from Marathon. Yeah. So that's nice. Nice win for Coach Schneider and his group against the top team that's up in the Merriwood North right now. But holding their spot in that conference is because Athens lost a lot to graduation. Not sure where Prentice stands. Phillips is, like you said, always strong, and I think they'll be in the thick of things at the end of the day. But it's interesting to see that competition level is coming back, because for so many years that was a team to spar with up in the North, and we'll see if that holds true as the season progresses.
CWC East, and it's an interesting league because you got a couple at the top, you got a couple at the bottom, and a whole bunch of teams in the middle because you got either 4-0, 0-4, or 2-2. There's no 3-1s, and there's no 1-3s. Wittenberg-Burnhamwood still undefeated, 4-0. They're 7-0 overall. Bonduel, undefeated in conference, 4-0, 6-1 overall. Then you got Manawa, Wyowega, Fremont, Shiocton, and Amherst all 2-2 in the conference, and either 4-3, 3-4, or 4-4. So they're all in the middle, even with their overall records. Then Iola Scandinavia and Menominee Indian both winless in the conference. Wittenberg-Burnhamwood continues to be impressive. We mentioned their game against DC Everest on Monday, but also on Friday in a conference game, they defeated Shiocton 66-29. Milena Granquist, who was near the top for them on Monday, was also right there with a double-double, 16 points, 11 boards. Harper Rogowski, 15. Faith Resch, 11 for the Chargers. And Bonduel, again, they've been dominant for the most part this year as well, 59-24 over Manawa. It lines up as a very interesting league as Whitburn, again, has good experience, good talent, and Bonduel just has been so consistently good in basically all sports recently. Those teams look to be separating already.
Right, yeah, they're going to hold their spot at the top of that conference. Wittenberg, I think, we've talked about it when their coach was in last year, and you look at their stats, they just have so many kids on that team that can put the ball in the basket, and then the two,
and never underestimate that as a basketball coach, right? I mean, well, sometimes it seems easy, but sometimes it's not easy.
No, well, I think anytime you have these teams where they got a two-headed monster that scores, what a luxury. Because these, especially when they can play together and fill the basket up where they each average about 20 points a game, that's a lot of points to combat from an opposing coach that's scouting them. So I just think they're dangerous. And again, I don't know if Selvison even played because she wasn't on that last list. That's another one. She's averaging 20 for that team, and she might have not played that game against Shiocton if she wasn't in the box score. But they're just tough to handle the way the way they play the game and how well they can fill up that offensive side of the basket and the success they had last year. And Bonduel, like you said, I don't know a lot about you just know on paper that they're always there. Yep. They're always there in the top of that conference.
Really athletically, I mean, they just keep doing good things in all sports, and it's obviously, and you've been around it, where sometimes, I mean, when there's success in one program, it does spread within a school, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it just amps up that community. It becomes a lot of fun when both the boys and the girls sides are having the amount of success that a school is putting in, the effort is being reciprocated, and it's just spreading throughout the school community.
And CWC North, North and Lutheran really getting into their season. They played 3 games in the past week. They played in the Wisconsin Lutheran College Tournament, both the boys and the girls for Northland. And Friday, Northland Lutheran beat Michigan Lutheran 44-27. They fell to Great Plains Lutheran of South Dakota 55-31 on Saturday. And then last night they defeated Nakusa by a score of 42-31. They're part of the CWC North, and there's only 4 teams listed in their conference, which is
interesting and odd. It's just, it's a different makeup. It's just, I don't know. You want to have a couple more teams than that, but that's what it currently stands as. Whether there was co-ops or teams drop out and not have a team, that stuff happens. So I would expect them, the way they're playing and how some of those scores are looking, and I would expect them to have some success in that conference and see how they do as the season progresses.
We're going to take a quick timeout and then come back. Have our first guest for tonight, the head girls basketball coach at Marathon High School, off to a 6-1 start, winners of 5 games in a row. We'll be talking to Jeff Schneider coming up in a minute. It's the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. On Friday night, it's high school boys basketball as the Marathon Red Raiders make the short trek to Wausau to take on the Newman Catholic Cardinals. Hear all the exciting action live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 6:50 and the opening tip at 7:15. High school boys basketball on 98.9 WXCO is brought to you by the Cloverbell Credit Union, Red Robin Restaurants, Sun Printing, Marathon Park City, Four Seasons Screen Printing, Brickner's of Little Chicago, County Materials, the People's State Bank, Marathon Cheese, the Dirks Group, Marathon Family Dentistry, and the Marathon Athletic Club. It's Marathon at Newman Catholic and high school boys basketball. Friday, starting with the pregame show at 6:50 on 98.9 WXCO, WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back, Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, Bull Falls Radio, on WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With Jeff Gress, I am Chad Holmes. I'm very happy to welcome into studio our coach guest for this week from Marathon High School, Jeff Schneider. And Coach, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
How many years has it been now?
Oh,
I mean,
it gets harder to add up.
Well, Jeffrey and I are the same age, so yeah. I'm not going to date him, but yeah, this is year 20.
Wow, 20 years. Before we start talking about your team, I mean, I remember when you first started. I mean, you were a very young man when you started, and you're still a very young man, but what have you learned in 20 years, maybe in a nutshell, that's changed in terms of coaching? Because I have to admit, I've been around this for a couple of decades, and it is not the same. It is different, and we don't see the long-termers as much anymore. There's so much that's asked of the coaches. There's so much that goes on. What is the biggest difference between now and 20 years ago?
Oh, boy, that's a great question. I think a lot. I think, number one, that winning is important, but it's still important, but it feels like more now that I think it's more kid-centered, and I think that's a good thing, that sports is about the team, and it's about the experience that we can give high school kids or that kids can have, and whether that be, they're the 20-point scorer or they're the captain or they're the last kid on the bench. And there's a spot and there's a place for everyone to really have a great experience. And I think there's more attention to that now as opposed to 20 years ago. And I definitely think there's a lot more when Jeff and I were going up and going through it. And it was more about winning. Winning is really important. But I do think it's more about the kids. And I think that's a really good thing.
Have you had, because I think it's hard, because I look back at myself when I started and now, and I even think back with my coaches, because we used to joke around and we'd have some tough coaches and we'd be like, oh, they got married and they softened up.
Yeah.
But have you felt you had a transition? Because,
yeah.
Because it's number one, congrats, because it's not easy anymore, I think, to stay in one place. That's why people move, or there's other situations where things change, and a lot of times coaches aren't about change. I have my way, I know how to do this, and I don't want to transition because I know this will work and this is better for the kids, and then they're forced to adjust or have to adjust, or they just stop altogether. What have you looked back and felt you've kind of maybe transitioned or changed under? Or do you feel that you have?
I think just being open to growth. I mean, I think when you're a young coach, you come in, you have your ideas, you've learned from the coaches that you've had. I mean, you learn from Coach Witter and other coaches too, and but that's the way to do it. I mean, that's what I was taught. That's what I'm going to teach my kids, my players, and it's going to work. And you just have to be, as you grow older, you actually grow as a knowledge, and then you find things that work for some teams and some teams not. And then I think the biggest thing is finding ways to simplify the game and simplify the game in terms of the way we teach it. We always say basketball is the most over-coached sport, but the most under-taught, if that makes sense. But, and finding ways that I can really break it down for fifth and sixth and then all the way up through your varsity players, so that when they get on the court, they can react, and they can play with confidence. And that's really hard to do. And finding ways to be efficient. I mean, I always think everybody's idol, for a good reason, is Coach Wooden. And one thing that made Coach Wooden really, really the best ever was he just found ways to make things as simple as possible for his guys, and they did things so efficiently that they got so good at what they did that they just played at this level that nobody else could play at. And obviously he had great players and things like that, but I think that's been my goal, is just to try to make it so that how can we teach it the best so that as many kids as possible can learn how to play the game and have a great experience.
Well, on that same line, I think it may have been before the first game of the season, one of the early games of this season when I was talking to you, and you were talking about, you have these ideas about teaching the game, starting at the very lowest levels and being able to make it go through a program. And my first thought is, this is not a guy who's tired of the job. This is not a guy that's thinking about finding the exit, because you're still thinking about the game. You're still thinking about building the program. You're talking about the kids that are down at the lower levels, trying to make the pathway up towards junior varsity basketball. Can you talk a little bit about those thoughts, maybe in terms, because I was talking to Jeff a little bit earlier, in terms of, we see in this era more girls basketball players from Wisconsin that are playing at the highest levels at UConn and Division I. But at the same time, I also see, I think, a lot of basketball that may not be at the level that it's been in the past either. And I think a lot of it has to do with maybe not having that synergy from beginning of the basketball road at a certain program up to the varsity level. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, how have your thoughts either developed, or where do you stand now? How close are you to implementing what you want to do? Maybe just a little thought, because I found that very interesting.
Yeah, thank you, Chad. I think it's going to be a continuing work in progress, but I'd say since COVID especially, just, I think COVID, you go back and you just look at everything you do and how you do it, and is it effective? And, we as teachers, we try to do that in the classroom too. And it's a long process. I don't think anybody's got it completely figured out, but what my ultimate goal would be, as a kid that comes into, even as a kindergartner, and they come to our Saturday morning things, and then they grow up and they learn to compete, and they learn to love to play the game, and they learn how to be a great teammate and have a great experience. And obviously some kids are going to like basketball more, they're going to like volleyball more, they're going to like this sport more, or whatever, and that's fine. But if this is something they want to do, the framework is there so that they can, if they want to, they can really fall in love with it and go with it. And then you have maybe that kid that really just takes it and does play Division I basketball or something like that, and so it's very difficult. The leadership that it takes is extremely tough, and I'm just going to continue to work at it and try to set things there so that kids learn the right way, not saying the right way, but they learn so that they can sustain interest. They have enough success that they can continue to play and continue to play and continue to play until they choose that, they don't want to play for the right reasons. And it's not because they didn't have the opportunity, or it's not because they didn't have the knowledge and the things to do what they needed to do to be successful at the game.
And jumping into your season a little bit so far in this short, nice. It's always nice when, you got to love it when you're sharing records. It's like, and somebody comes, how you guys do? Oh, we're 6-1. It's awesome. You don't have to tell them how any game plays out. You can just give a number, and everybody's like, wow, I love that number. And 4-1 overall. But you had, like we were talking just before you came in, Rib Lake sitting on the top of that conference right now. Nice win over game. Their only loss so far. You beat Colby on Monday. And other quality wins along the way so far to be 6-1 and 4-1 in the conference. What you see out of your team right now that's gelling, that's working. What do you like about it? And then maybe because Christmas is always a good evaluation time. What do you want to see your team? Maybe we got to hit a little heavier on this after the break so that we're solidified in making the run that we want to run in conference and down to the playoffs and all that stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for that compliment. Sometimes you lose track of that. You're not trying not to obviously worry about your record a whole lot, but
6-1.
I think it's for us. We're really lucky that we have 8 seniors, and that I don't know if any other team has that, and I don't want to brag about it, but we are really proud of that. And they're just super kids. All of them are have worked hard, and they've become great leaders. And before the season started, you always try to set your goals and expectations and things. And these kids came to me and said, "Hey, these are the standards that we want. And that whether we win this many games or not or whatever, this is the team we want to have. And, we want to have a team that's accountable to each other. We want to have a team that is, great teammates. We want to have a team that encourages each other, supports each other no matter what." And they've set the tone right from the beginning. And our practices have been some of the best practices that I've been involved in 20 years. And it's been super enjoyable. The competition level, the basketball, the improvement, the growth that we've seen, and carrying that over to the games is very difficult, but that will come as we keep going throughout the season. So I'm just super proud of them. The 8 seniors, I think they've set the tone that this team is going to be the best that it can be. This team's going to get to where they should get to, and then as a coach, that's all you can ask for, and we'll see where that goes.
Is I watched you play again. I mean, I've only seen a couple games. Either I've listened to Chad on a couple things, or watched on the radio, or watched the game at Newman, things like that. I thought very disciplined, the kids. They're trying to. That it's called out. They're running it. They get to the spots, and they just know. That obviously comes from the top down. You got to work that. Is that a hard process to get instilled, where there's the on-court awareness balanced with the work ethic, balanced with the desire? I mean, that's a constant work in progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And the kids have been so great because we've transitioned over the last few years to, we don't run nearly as many sets. We don't even run a patterned offense. We run actions, and trying to get those actions to go, we call it triggers. This triggers this action and this type of thing. Then they play off of each other, and that's hard to do. And they've bought into that, and they've tried that, and we've failed, but then we've come back and seen success that we can have by just, we say just playing basketball. It kind of goes back to that youth thing. Is everybody knows what great basketball looks like because we can watch it and say, "Oh, that's amazing, great pass." But how do you teach that, and how do you get that flow and that rhythm with all 5 kids? And it's going to be a continuing work, but we've seen glimpses of it, and that to me is one of the greatest joys of part of the game.
Again, we're talking to Jeff Schneider, the head girls basketball coach at Marathon High School here on 98.9 WXCO. I've seen with your team something I usually see when I'm going to do a hockey game. Line changes. I saw it on Monday night when you had 5 come in and then you had 5 come out, and you've probably gone as deep as anybody so far this season because you said you have 8 seniors and you have some good underclassmen as well. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can be difficult when you have a lot of kids that can play. And how are you going about that? Because you do have a lot of kids that can play.
Yeah, and I think it's something, as Jeff alluded to, you kind of it works itself out as the season goes on. But right now, all of them have been super at, we say when you're out there, because we're going to utilize our depth, is we want to play at, we use this word pace. We want to play at this pace that obviously is up and down, but at the same time is, built on pressure. So in order to play pressure defense, requires a huge amount of effort. And if we can get, a lot of kids doing that, we feel like we can wear down teams. And we've had, by far, we've had better second halves than we've had first halves this year. And I think that's a credit to our kids and our depth and playing a lot of kids. And but yeah, it is difficult, trying to find different combinations and mixes and matches and things like that. And obviously some kids need to be on the floor more than others, and we're figuring that out and learning that. And certain kids have done a little bit more scoring, and we know obviously that's important. And so we'll continue to develop it. But yeah, I just, we think we have the more depth than anybody, and we're going to continue to use it as much as we can.
Assumption Thursday night.
Yep.
Right. Is that depth going to come into play and help in that? I mean, because of the pace, they play at that pace. They throw some pressure at you. They're up and down the floor. I guess at the end of the night, what do your girls need to do well tomorrow to have the success you want in that basketball game?
Yeah, I think the depth can really help because I think we can give. I think we can give some pressure on our own, or from our end too, and just make it as difficult as possible for them to, maybe work to get the ball up the court a little bit, and then also work to get in any sort of rhythm. They've got great shooters. They've got good passers. They've got penetrators. They've got kids that play good near the basket. And whatever, if you let them do those things and find those things and find those kids, well, they're going to score a lot of points, which they have this year. But for us to disrupt is our goal, and, get deflections and, make passes difficult. We want to push the ball, get it on we call it the lock left, the left side of the floor, where kids are going to use their weak hand, or more than likely their weak hand, and they're going to try to have to pass it out of there against more of a denial on that side of the court. And, we getting that, and then maybe getting some things off of our defense where we don't have to deal with their pressure, and then getting up the court. But yeah, their pressure is tremendous, and they're super athletic. I mean, they have, the Shaw girl is one of the best athletes I've ever seen in terms of just her hands and her quickness and things like that on the defensive end are super. So, it takes a lot of fundamentals. It takes a lot of confidence. It takes a lot of coming to meet the ball and talking and playing with all five. And you can't draw it up on the whiteboard because it's going to be different every time. Yeah. So kids have to learn to react and play off each other.
We had a chance to talk to Miley Halke here on the program a few weeks back, and she's off to a really good start. 13 points per game.
Yeah.
She's continued to grow, hasn't she?
She has. And one thing about Miley is, seeing her in middle school and grow, she was always by the basket, as a young kid, because she did a super job of, post moves and finishing and catching and finishing. And now she's expanded her game, and she's taken it upon herself that, she really wants to be a complete player. She wants to be able to make shots on the perimeter. She wants to be able to drive the ball. She wants to be able to finish and even dish the ball. And, she had 3 assists the other night. So she's having a great season. She's off. She works super hard and has some really, really nice goals. And you always want kids that, boy, I want to play college basketball, or I want to do this, or and that's just, those are the kids you love because they're just driven.
The games that I've seen, when I look at your stats, there are girls that have such a broader influence on what you do than what shows up on the score sheet. Who are some of the girls that are the glue girls in terms of what you're doing?
Yeah, I was talking about our seniors before. We have 8, and right now we have pretty much 6 that play quite a bit. Like we said, we play a lot of kids, and they've all had different paths. They've had injuries. Some have come back from, knee surgeries. Some of them, have played since their sophomore year. Some of them didn't play as much until this year. And they've all just meshed, and they like basketball. Maybe it's not their number one sport, but they want to contribute to our team, and they want to contribute to our program. And that's what I really love about them. And I think they're glue. I think they're all glue kids. We have 3 seniors that start: Chenping Pakatong, Kyla Heisey, and Caden Sapinski, and they're, they've got some experience, but they also, they've had their ups and downs, and they just continue to battle and continue to compete and always give it on the defensive end. And 3 others that come off the bench and do a great job there: Danica Pashik, Addison Malepsky, and Izzy Varden, who, Izzy came into this year with very limited experience and has done a super job, for the varsity. So I'm just super proud of them. They've done a great job. Katie Cliver is another senior who is coming back now from a second knee surgery. And then Katie LeBlanc, who was a great volleyball player, played when she was younger, now just decided to come back and play basketball because she just wants to play and be with these kids. So super, all glue kids, all leaders, and all, like I said, have, accountability.
And how do you, it's a unique setup sometimes when you have that amount of seniors, but you have underclassmen that you got to play, because as a coach, people think you're only in the moment, but you're worried about 4 years ago as well as 4 years ahead, because you've got to continue player development. You got to continue the team program that you got instilled, and it's constant. And so you got to bring those kids along, get those groups to mesh. How about the underclassmen? How they coming along? Who's contributing there? Things like that.
Yeah, well, we've talked about Miley, and her inside out game is improved, and it'll continue to improve, and that allows her to just do so many things on the offensive end. Emma Love has been a girl that she is super willing to do whatever's asked of her, and super willing to do what do I have to do just to become a better player and more effective player, or more effective scorer or passer or whatever it is. And she's taken great steps in by the basket and being able to, get position and being able to pivot and turn and finish, and against tall kids, against, kids that can jump. And she's done a super job. And, at any given night, like Monday, she had 20, she can go off and get 20 or even more. So, we're super excited for her that she just keeps getting better. And then we have 3 sophomores that don't have a lot of experience. They played a little bit last year, but they're growing and they're going to go through growing pains. But I think they all bring things that can help the team, and then have shown that they can help the team, whether it be defending or rebounding, passing the ball. And even scoring at times. So Caitlin Love, Macy Mishka, and Maven Schneider. No relation. No, I'm just kidding.
So you did what a true dad coach.
Yeah,
we're listed. She got stuck at the end because she's the coach's
How long
kid.
could you hold it
She
on?
always gets the short end of the stick, unfortunately.
Tell her we're thinking about it. She should have been first.
I know.
Go ahead.
But no, they've all worked super hard and have meshed well, and trying to find roles and things like that here early in the season, and it's great. I mean, they're going to have ups, they're going to have downs, and they're going to keep playing and keep getting better. And I think sometimes as a coach, you just gotta understand that, and you gotta let them fail, and you gotta just grow and understand that's part of the process, and that they're kids, and we just gotta keep going and keep fighting. And we always say next play. Coach K was always next play. Well, it's next play, and we're going to keep living by that.
Well, yeah, 20 years. It's always good to pick brains on when you've had that much time and experience. You have Assumption Thursday, and then I believe you're off till Columbus Catholic. Or is there another game in between?
Columbus. We're going to play Columbus over the break.
Friday.
Yep, next Friday.
Gotcha. What do you find works well at Crit? Because kids are coming and going, holiday stuff. They're not as, I don't know. I always like, if we had a game, I like to have a school day. I don't want a day off and then have a game.
Absolutely,
They're just more mentally engaged in the daily activities versus the kids that are sleeping in and coming to that game at night. So anything you find that work? What did you guys do? Anything special that kind of adds to that? To keep them vibrant and fresh, especially with what you've already kind of established. Well, you want to keep that momentum going.
You do, and sometimes alumni can come in and help us. We've got some really nice, great kids that have come through our program that are more than willing to come back and practice and run up and down with us. We do have today we had an over break. Sometimes we'll have a group of high school guys that come in, and they're not on the basketball team, but maybe they played when they were younger, and they do a super job because they give us a different look and that type of thing. And we do we have a Christmas party at my house usually every year, and they do a gift exchange and do all that stuff and eat and be merry, and it's a lot of fun. I really have enjoyed that over the years. And we're looking, sometimes you can go off and do like a couple games at a tournament and something like that. So maybe in the future we're looking to do that, where we can do an overnight or something. But you definitely believe in having a game keeps you fresh.
Yeah,
I don't think you can go for even 10 days or whatever it is, and great opportunity to play Columbus Catholic, who's a great program, and our boys are going to play them. So it's that double. Whenever you get that double header, it's such an awesome experience for kids to get fans there, and they can watch each other, and So yeah, we're looking forward to that next Friday.
Let me ask towards the end here, in our last few minutes, because when you talk about scheduling, over the last couple of years since the computer's taken over the seeding, we've asked coaches about scheduling, and you've had teams that have made it to the state tournament. You've had teams that have been in a rebuilding phase.
Yeah.
How do you look at scheduling, and what do you think about when you put together your schedule?
That's a good question, Chad. I think a couple of things. I think one, you want to find games that can help you grow in terms of playing teams that are really going to be solid teams. But at the same time, you don't want all those teams because
Right.
you want to have opportunity for success. And obviously, you can grow in any game, whether you win or lose. But I think that's a big part of it. I also think trying to find. I heard you guys talking about it before, where you go play different conferences. Maybe the GNC plays a Valley team or something like that. I think that's just super. Where if we can go play a GNC team, that's awesome for us, obviously, because they're bigger schools and they're great competition. So, we're going to play Wausau East this year. We've played Wittenberg in the past, who's just outstanding. We've had a chance. We get a chance to play Northland Pines this year, which is a GNC team. So yeah, just doing that, and then we have some consistents that we're going to play each year as far as non-conference wise, and those are good things to honor. Where you play them at home, or you switch off, and those are really develop good relationships with those coaches and those programs, and we're fortunate that we have them on our schedule.
Well, we keep saying the number 20, and I officially came. Many guys mentioned I felt old. Old and getting older, right? Anyways, so again, I love the lifelong coach, because I just think sometimes it's easy to and you get there and you're established and you have success and you're enjoying it and you keep coming back for more because it's just such an awesome thing. I think that all snowballs into good things. For you, 20 years. What's been so great about coaching? What keeps you going? Because it's easy to get exhausted. I mean, we're all looking tired in here right now. It's easy to get exhausted at this point. But what is it about it that is that refreshment for you? That this is a big deal. This is why I do this.
I think just number one, the kids. I mean, the kids are just so, to see kids come to practice and work their tails off after. Some of them have, they have a lot, I mean, they go through school day. There's pressure on grades. There's pressure with, whatever they have, their friends and relationships and their parents. And I mean, there's a lot. And to see kids come and work so hard and support each other and buy into some good culture things, that for me is the most rewarding. Games are great. I mean, the competitiveness and the fans and that type of thing, that's really cool. But for me, being able to go and spend that hour and a half or 2 hours with these kids that work hard and want to get better, and you can see growth. It's messy, but at the same time, it's so rewarding. And that's the best part for me is practice. And I love it. And I could do that every day. And then the games are great too. But like I said, that keeps me going.
Jeff Schneider, head girls basketball coach at Marathon High School. It's, man, I still remember, I think it was your first year you played Newman in a playoff game, and that feels like yesterday. Now
it feels like yesterday.
Me and you are both getting very old, huh? I mean, that was your first year, wasn't it? I think.
It was.
And Mosinee, big game.
And I was going to say, shout out to, so many coaches, Jeff talked about life coaches or coaches that were at schools or have been doing it for a long time. I think of Coach Witter and some of the other coaches, that we've had, and just to see that and you remember that, I think that's been a big inspiration. They've dedicated so much. They dedicated so much of their life to kids and their programs, and that was their program, whether it be Newman or whether it be whatever program they were at, and just making it the best they could. And I mean, that's inspiring, and that still inspires me. So to keep going,
fantastic. Well, I'm going to say good luck tomorrow, because it's
Thank
going to
you.
be, great.
Thank you.
That's one of the great things. We didn't even talk about your conference. I mean, there's so many good teams in that conference. I mean, you look at it, 7-0, 7-0, 6-1, 5-2. It's like really, really good stuff. So, again, best of luck tomorrow. Best of luck, and I'll see you soon somewhere.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. Keep up the great show.
Coach Jeff Schneider of the Marathon Red Raiders. We'll be right back. We'll take a quick time out. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. On Thursday night, the Wausau West hockey team travels to Chippewa Falls to take on the Cardinals in a non-conference matchup. Hear all the exciting action live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 6:50 and the opening face-off at 7 p.m. Wausau West Hockey on 98.9 WXCO is brought to you by the Clover Belt Credit Union, Red Robin Restaurants, Sun Printing, the Wausau West Athletic Department, Coast to Coast Marketing, and the Wausau West Hockey Booster Club. It's Wausau West Hockey at Chippewa Falls, Thursday night, starting with the pregame show at 6:50 and the opening face-off at 7 on your home for Wausau West Sports. 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction here on 98.9 WXCO. We only got about 3.5 minutes to go. So we're not even going to jump into the Boise yet. We'll get into that after our next interview because
we'll cover hockey quick.
These shows are just, they go too fast.
Yes.
I mean, I'm looking at that clock. We had Coach Schneider on for 25 minutes or more, and it's like, and it went by just like that.
Well, and you can ask, with his experience, you can get, like you said off air, you can get into such depth because there's just more experience.
They've seen it.
They've seen it all. We're versus somebody that's starting to build their program. But again, that's why we always talk off air, why this is so rewarding, talking to these student athletes and these coaches and getting a picture of what they're. I love the answers. You just can't go wrong. I know sometimes they sit back, well, I wish I would have said this or that. They can't go wrong because they're speaking from their heart, they're giving their gut, and they're sharing a part of their life with us. And I think that authenticity is a big deal.
And something about a guy like Coach Schneider and others who've, I was even talking, how many years were you the varsity coach at Newman? More than a decade, right?
Yeah. I mean, it quick. 14.
Okay. You have a guy like, say in football, Jerry Sins, but every year they're either winning conference. Coach Schneider, the last couple of years, he's had to build. Yeah, a few years before that, he went to state. He's had great teams for the most part, and then it went down a little bit because there's cycles with small schools, especially. You saw it as well.
Yeah.
It says to me that people like that, like yourself and Coach Schneider, are in it for the right reasons. It's not ultimately, hey, are we going to have a chance to win a championship this year? But are we going to be able to build better human beings at the end of the season? It's so much of it, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I asked the question, like, what's the best part? Every time it's going to be the kids.
Right.
I could have told you the answer to that before I asked it, but I wanted to hear his take on it, and that's a big deal because at the end of the day, I know, we talk about it. You get caught up in these wins and losses. You get caught up in records. But at the end of the day, it's the time that these kids spend in your programs and the connections that you make them. One of my greatest joys in the time I have is when I see former players now, or we chat or talk or catch up at all, is hearing how their lives are. Mm-hmm. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter what games we won in the past. Right. It matters that we had that connection, and now they're sharing to me what they're proud of. And I like to think a little part of their journey and how they built their life made them a little bit better because they.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
And welcome back. It is hour number 2 of the Big High School Sports Show, brought to you by K5 Construction. K5 Construction is a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to the final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. With Jeff Grass, I'm Chad Holmes, and now we are joined by our student-athlete guests, as we do at the top of the second hour, Andrew Wickman from Northern Lutheran High School. And Andrew, thank you for coming on over tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll have to get you a little closer to that microphone so everybody can hear you. But number one, it's really great to have you on board. And another reason that we love to bring on somebody from Northland, because so often you get caught, I think, a little bit under the radar. So far this season, if I'm not mistaken, 4 wins and 3 losses. You just came off a win. You've actually won your last 2 games. Before we talk specifically about yourself, talk a little bit about your team so far this season. How has the season gone for your squad?
Yeah, I think it's actually going pretty well. Coming into the year, we weren't necessarily considered to be that great compared to last year. I guess my team's really picked it up, and we don't have the most size, but we like to push the floor and play defense.
And what do you think with your team so far? You know, you said you've had 7 games. You're 2-1 in the conference, 4-3 overall. In this short amount of time, because I talked with Coach Schneider before, mentioning that kind of a chance to evaluate your team before Christmas. Here's things we're doing really well on. Here's things we got to work on a little bit. Right now, what do you like about your team that you're like, yeah, we're tough at this. This is something we do really well together, and you got anything you think that, hey, we got to get a little better on this end to get to where we want to be at the end of the season?
Yeah, I think right now, the intensity of the defense and I guess just the energy we bring is really ideal. And then, I don't know, we got to put our offense together a little more, but it's definitely getting there from the start.
Well, talking about offense, I said to you, I saw that you had a 27-point outing early in the season, and then you said, well, just last few days you had a 30-point outing, and then you said you had a bit of a tougher outing. Was it last night?
Yeah.
For yourself, when you look at your game, obviously you have the ability to put the ball in the hole. What do you think you do best on the offensive end? What makes you dangerous when things are going well?
I guess I don't know. I just try to make myself involved. I don't like to rely on other things. I just like to get it done. And I guess my teammates are really always there to help me, which is good.
What is the position? What kind of offense do you run? What kind of role do you have within your offense?
I'm like the point guard or shooting guard, I guess. So if I get face guarded, I guess, then I can be the shooting guard and someone else can bring the ball up. But I like to have the ball in my hands, I guess, to take control.
And you mentioned you like to get it's about getting your teammates involved, because the better the team you are, the better wins you're probably going to have at the end of the day. Yeah. Share some things. How about some of your teammates? Who are some of the guys that hang out with, some of the guys that make that team go, some of the guys that contribute as do yourself to your team? Yeah,
there's a couple of sophomores in specific that are pretty good at shooting now. It's a small school, so you gotta know everyone. So it doesn't matter if you're seniors.
Can't get lost there, can you?
It's I don't know. Honestly, we're just kind of we're all so close because it's so small that we know everyone. We all just such a nice family, and anyone you can really count on to do anything for you.
In Northern Lutheran, when I coached, used to be in the Merrillwood a lot of times. So we had some wars with them, got to know the coaching staffs really well, got to know the players. I always was impressed at, number one, kids, like we were talking off air to start, kids put a lot of time just traveling to get to school, because it's a big deal for them that they go to that school and invest their time into that education. And then the environment you have, because it's, like you said, you're basing, whereas other schools can be heavy in certain classes, you're relying on underclassmen right away to make things go. How many kids are on the team right now? How many kids total? Do you have are there over 10? Are there 15? Are there
on varsity? They're probably 13 maybe.
Okay, so plenty to practice with, because I was always impressed with the small numbers sometimes that they had in the gym and they were making it go.
Yeah.
So, did you ever find any difficulties in working? Because you got to bring them along. You got to make the best of it. You can't give them too hard a time, because you need those kids out there. Where other schools are we're giving the sophomores a hard time, but can't scare them away. Has it meshed well, you think, having it across the grade levels, or anything you find that sometimes you really got to work at to be? What's your role, I guess, if I give you a question? Role as a leader. What's your role as a leader?
I think that, so taking it back, when I was a sophomore, I think that I just like learned so much from the seniors and the juniors. Like I learned how to play and like be myself out there instead of being like nervous and everything. And I guess that now me being the senior, I can help them like know how to handle themselves and everything.
Again, we're talking to Andrew Wickman from Northern Lutheran High School, our student-athlete guest this week on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Being at a smaller school, and generally, not just athletically, but academically and obviously faith-based as well, what is the best things about going to Northern Lutheran? What are the opportunities that you're getting there that maybe you wouldn't get elsewhere?
I guess since it is so small that if you need help with like subject, that the teachers are always there. And they don't got that many students so like even if you're far in line, you'll get through by the hour or something. So that's really, really nice. Also, I guess it's the students also because everyone knows each other. So it's like a family, I guess you can say. And I don't know, the main thing is honestly just the help you can get from the teachers.
And athletically, obviously, when you go to a smaller school, you have the opportunities because I think, and Jeff has said this as well, that you want everybody to come out, possibly can, and have maybe have opportunities you wouldn't have elsewhere. And I was asking you about being part of the varsity, being 4 years, and you said obviously you had some pretty good teams early on in your high school career. But do you feel as though having those opportunities athletically has helped you lift your game and made you a better basketball player in the end?
Yeah, I think so. My freshman year especially, there was like mainly all seniors that started and played the whole game really, and like some of them. One guy was from Korea. He was actually like my best friend. And he was really good. He was one player of the year for the conference or whatever, and he just helped me so much. He helped me like I was all right at dribbling, but like I didn't know, like I knew how to do stuff. I just didn't know when to do it, and like he would teach me, like when to do between legs and like when to do that kind of stuff. That really helped me grow as a basketball player.
So basically, practice made you a better player than maybe play even the games that year.
Yeah, and they would always, like they would go out like with coaches and go to some private gyms, and they would always invite me as a freshman, which is really nice.
And we talked about your, again off air just while we were waiting for the advertisement and the news and everything, with your schedule so far. You've played some bigger teams out of your conference. You have teams your size in your conference that you've seen a little bit. And then, if I'm correct on the last 3 games, you went over. You got White Lake last night, and then you got the 2 Lutheran schools that you played at down at Wisconsin Valley or Wisconsin Lutheran College, right?
Yes.
Sorry, Wisconsin Valley. That mix and match of that schedule, does that help? Do you guys like that? Is that a lot of fun for you to go all of a sudden see a school that's a little bigger, got that challenge? Then, hey, now it's conference, we got to own this against somebody our own size, but then you go see 2 teams you're not going to see again except in that tournament.
Yeah, I think it's actually really, really fun having the challenge. Like we lost our first game. We might have been better, but they had a big center. We don't have that much size, so it's hard for us to defend. And like now looking back at it, it was a frustrating game, but we should have won, so it makes us better, and we can build on that and know what to do next time.
Was it cool to play teams from other states?
Yeah.
Does it feel different when you have somebody that you know is not from the neighborhood?
It kind of does, but also it's like Choral Fest. So my teammates that are in choir, they all went down to some college around there, and like those schools went. So like it was kind of weird that my teammates like knew the other players from different states, and I never saw them before. But
does it change your? Well, you talked. You have alluded that we're not a big team, so we have to do things scheme wise to make up for our size or to make up for our lack of size. How about playing on the college court? I mean, I'm assuming you played on the college court down there. Was that fun having that? I mean, because you go from Northern Lutheran, where when you're on the sidelines, your back's against the outside wall. You got bleachers across from you, and and the walls are right up tight against the hoops on the baselines, and then you're on the college court. Yeah. And it's different than the teams you were playing up in the state. When whether you go big or small, those gyms are still comparable sizes, and they got all this open space.
Yeah.
Do you like playing on that openness, or is it a vibe of depth perception that's hard when you're a scorer like you are?
It was definitely, I don't know, I kind of liked it. I liked a lot of people there and everything, and then it was kind of cool because it was like darker on the outsides, and then the court was kind of lit up, which was I don't know. I just like the atmosphere there.
How many teams play in that? I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Who's the third or who's the fourth team then?
Great Plains Lutheran. They're in South Dakota.
Gotcha.
Let me, we'll talk more basketball. Let's talk a little bit about other aspects of your life. What's your favorite class?
I would have to say probably like marketing maybe. I like marketing a lot.
Do you have any hopes to continue your education at the college level?
Yeah, I'm trying to get into like sports management or maybe some marketing.
Are you hoping to continue to be involved in basketball in some way?
I might do some like intramurals, but I don't know if I'll. Yeah, I don't think I can make it in the.
Hey, intramurals is a lot of fun. I mean, it keeps you playing, and obviously, and a lot of kids like yourself played high school ball, and I remember seeing being at college and being around some colleges. The level of play is still pretty darn good. When you're either not at school or not at basketball practice, what do you like to do to maybe get away from it all? What are some of the fun things you like to do?
I play soccer. I like doing that a lot. In the summer, I like to golf like basically every day. Just got into that. I don't know, just playing video games with my friends, and it's like since I don't go to the same school as most of my friends, that like it's just fun to hang out with them, like through video games and stuff like that.
Do you obviously you just said soccer's a fun thing. What other sports you play soccer for the school too?
Yeah.
And do you do anything in the spring?
Yeah, for MC United soccer.
Okay.
That's all I do, basketball and soccer.
Basketball, soccer.
In terms of playing for your dad, we often have kids that involved. We have coaches. We ask, and Jeff's always asking about because he actually coaches his son at the middle school level. What's it like playing for your dad? Is it something that you really love? Is it sometimes awkward? Do you take it home with you? What's it like?
Honestly, it just feels like a regular coach. Like from my soccer coach to him, it's like the same thing. Really, like make jokes with both of them. Like. I don't really know, honestly. Just like a normal coach.
Well, and that's, I guess, looking forward a little bit, and I guess jumping back to basketball first. You said you've been around the varsity team 4 years.
Yeah.
I don't know how much playing time, but been around there. You know the ways around that. You have a favorite opponent that you always look forward to? I know sometimes you get to know the kids in the conference too after a while because you're in the same conference for all those 4 years of basketball. Any rivalry games that are a big deal? I know for a while Wisconsin Valley Lutheran was, and now it's no longer. But any games you really look forward to just because you'd consider it a conference rivalry, and like you said, it bothers you don't want to lose to them.
Yeah. So I guess maybe Marion because like I said, we tied for conference my sophomore year. And then we actually drew them like in the playoff game, and it was at home, so like everyone was there. And then we ended up losing that game. So
sometimes the losses stick longer than the wins, don't they?
Yeah.
And looking at the rest of your year, I mean, obviously your last go around. Yeah. Do you have goals for this year, whether it's team wise or personally, that you want to accomplish before you finish your high school career?
I think we're 2-0 in the conference right now. Definitely the goal is to win that. Really think that's a real nice possibility.
Were you guys ever able to do that? Have you won it yet in your time on that?
Yeah, my sophomore year.
Sophomore year. Got it. So you got a little taste of what it feels like.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know at the end of the year, everybody wants to make it as far as they can, and unfortunately, graduation ends that as do losses at some point. When you look back on it, you've obviously had, just from hearing you talk in your conversation here, you've had a lot of enjoyable moments. What do you think you're going to miss most about those high school athletics since you, number one, same school, spent so much time there? Sounds like you've had some great experience from what you described. What are you going to miss most when it's all said and done?
I don't know. Maybe just like the aspect of playing the game. And I guess my brothers on the court. That's going to be...
What year is your brother, by the way?
My brother is a freshman.
Do you have anything else? Because that could lead right into our final question, because that's actually interesting, because we always finish up by asking our student-athlete guests the same question. And I think especially with a brother who's a freshman, this actually fits perfectly.
I was going to preface this. Would you and your brother get along okay?
Yeah.
Because sometimes siblings can be pretty heavy. And not, okay, this will be good then. Go ahead.
We ask, because somebody's gone through it, almost to the finish line of your high school career, based on what you've learned, based on your experiences, and if there's somebody who is just joining the program, a freshman usually, and you could give some advice based on what you've learned over the last few years, what would that advice be? And I guess in this case, what is the piece of advice that you would give your brother as he starts his journey through playing basketball at Northern Lutheran?
I guess just always like playing your hardest, I guess, because back maybe like the younger years I didn't give it my all, I guess, and now like thinking that's gonna be over, you want to work your hardest and leave it all out there, and I guess just to do that always.
Goes by fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does actually.
Anything else, Jeff?
No, just wish good. I'll be looking forward to seeing that score because how much you've emphasized that, Marion. You want to get that game on Friday to be sitting in a good spot for it. So wish you the best of luck on Friday. Thanks for sharing a little bit about the Northern Lutheran program.
Andrew Wickman, again, thank you very much. Top 30. You got to beat 30 points now. That's that's outstanding. That's Jeff Gress level numbers, I tell you. Shooter
that's
first.
Pressure, yeah.
But thank you again for being with us, and thanks for
thanks
coming
for
by.
me.
We're going to take a time out. We're going to talk about what's been going on in high school boys basketball coming up next. It's the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO.
New boys and girls basketball coaches polls are out, including a change at the top. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells. More high school sports news after this. You may have heard of Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells, one of the country's premier destinations for youth sports and events, but did you know that Just a Game does so much more? Just a Game also delivers end-to-end apparel, equipment, and event solutions. With their state-of-the-art screen printing and embroidery facility, they can help with branding for your team and business items, including uniforms, apparel, and more. Just a Game also offers digital services that include a cashless digital platform and event live streaming. Just a Game has also added a second brand new facility in Reedsburg. Find more information at justagame.com. On Tuesday afternoon, new WisSports.net coaches polls came out for boys and girls basketball. In the Division I boys rankings, De Pere remains the top-ranked team. The Redbirds get a stiff challenge on Saturday as they will travel to Wisconsin Lutheran, the defending champion in Division II, who was bumped up to D1 this season, ranked 5th in the newest poll. There's a new number 1 team in Division II. After Tosa West fell for the first time against Germantown last week, Nicolay ascends to the top spot. Milwaukee Academy of Science is perhaps the best team in the state regardless of division, and the top-ranked squad in Division III. Mineral Point in D4 and Sheboygan Lutheran in D5 remain atop their respective divisions. There were no changes in the top spots of the Week 3 WisSports.net girls basketball coaches poll, as there was a large amount of stability overall this week. Pewaukee continues to occupy the top spot in Division I after moving up from D2 last season. Speaking of the Pirates, they traveled to 5th-ranked Homestead on Saturday afternoon. Wauwatosa East is off to a 9-0 start and remains the top-ranked Division II team. Laconia sits atop Division III, with the Prairie School the number 1 team in D4. Assumption gets the edge once again as the top-ranked Division V team. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check us out online at WisSports.net and search Apple for the WSN podcast.
And welcome back, Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. You know, we always talk about, again, how great it is to be able to talk to the student athletes and the coaches, and I'm really happy as well to talk to somebody from Northern Lutheran. They don't get as much publicity as some of the other schools, the bigger schools. And I just think it's wonderful to talk about as many of the schools as we possibly can on this program, and it was really great to have him come on in and to learn a little bit more about. Again, it's so different. You've gone through it. We're at a small school where you're trying to get everybody to come out, and you're playing in against smaller schools and these small gyms, and to hear from Andrew Wickman and his basketball journey, it's always a great thing.
Yeah, it's just a different take on a little bit different environment. I love that we can cover the area teams as much as we can, but for him to present how it kind of works in a small school, he talked about knowing everybody, and that's a big deal to be around the people he's been around, and the teachers are always there when he needs them. But I think at Northern Lutheran, it's also so different because so many of those kids travel. So that just changes the complexity. That's why I asked him how many were on the varsity team, and when he said 13, I remember their years when we had their coaches come in. They're like, I scrounged up 8. For the whole varsity, for the whole program, and that means they're walking the hallways, talking to kids, trying to get them out. Kids that maybe have never done basketball, and that changes the team too. So just neat to see him paint that journey and paint that picture about what this high school times meant to him, which it sounds like it's been a great experience.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk boys high school basketball. Wisconsin Valley Conference got things underway in the conference last Friday night. 3 games, and one I had in Stevens Point be an upset. First time in 13 years, Wausau West defeated Stevens Point, and 26-game losing streak came to an end. Warriors won at Spash 55-50. Bennett Mansion 16, Griffin Lang 14 for West. And then Wausau West backed it up last night. Very impressive game, I thought. They played really well over in Medford. Another game we had here on WXCO. Griffin Lang 18, Bennett Mansion 17. Nico Federaci, boy, he's added a lot down low. 15 points, Miles Walvogel 10. I may sound like a homer, but I really like this team. I mean, this team really, it plays hard. It plays great defense. It has kids that are unselfish. This is a team that, we've talked a lot about the Marshfield and Stevens Point and East and Everest. This conference is just loaded. There's not a bad team in this conference this year, I don't think.
No, well, I got to give you credit because I know we talk off air and predict things and try to one-up each other, but you told me, hey, I know they're undersized. They still do the things well that I've seen them do well over the years under Coach Lemons, and I think you have something here. And so far, what you're saying and what you're sharing and what they're proving at a 4-1 record, and like 13 years that they haven't beat Spat, that's great. I mean, a nice win over at that field house. That's a big gym, tough place to play. Turn around, always beat a solid challenge in Medford. Medford just, no matter what type of Medford team you have, it's going to be physical, and they're going to war with you for those 2 halves of basketball that they're going to play with you. So, you see those things. You're going to get the grittiness and the toughness with a West basketball team, but now they're backing it with putting the ball in the basket enough to take those games over and get that consistency. So, hats off to them for the great start.
And talk about a great start. East is off to a great start. The Lumberjacks 7-0, 1-0 in the conference. They took care of Merrill in the conference, 66-49 on Friday. Jesse Knapp-Gezik continues to impress. 25 points. Charlie Cayley, 18 points, 15 boards. Then they went over to Kakon, I believe it was, for this an event on Saturday. And they beat Little Chute 78-64. Knapp-Gezik 22, Jaden Garrett 18, Cayley 11 points, 10 rebounds. And just, again, really impressive start for Wausau East.
Yeah, 7-0 is a great spot to be in here with, the game against Marshfield, which we'll talk about later, Lingener on Friday. It's just a great way to go into there, and I think they're playing some good basketball. They have, between Knapp-Gezik and Garrett and Cayley, guys that have logged a lot of hours, and again, we talked a little bit before. It's tough to. Teams that have multiple scores, it's really tough to defend. Who are you going to go after? Do you have enough defenders to go after those guys? What are you going to do to adjust? You have to sit in a zone, or they're going to find the open areas and dive down and put the offensive pressure on you by the amount of scoring that they can do. And it's Coach Garrett is built that program and put those guys in a great spot, and they're doing a solid job. And these scores, they're not a lot. I'd have to look at all the rest of the games, but these last two I have listed here between the Merrill game and Little Shoe, they've got some disparity in them. They've got some separation.
In the Little Shoe game, they had a bigger lead. I think it was actually not even that close.
Yeah, and just remembering a couple of other games, they've held their own and gone out there, and they're winning by a chunk. So they're controlling these basketball games.
Marshfield, very impressive win on Friday. They beat the Evergreens 59-31. Landon Lee 15, Joey Ketterer 13, Brooks Hinson 11. Good balance. Everest again with some injury issues, and obviously without Cohen Preby, that's a huge loss. They did bounce back, however. Everest beating Chippewa Falls last night 64-39. Cade Felch 17, Sam Dassel 16, Luke Honor 12. So Marshfield, they had a game also against Brookfield Central. They stepped out of conference Saturday, fell 62-53. But I think Marshfield is still going to be Marshfield, and we're going to find out a lot about them against East. And Everest, again, it's a shame that late in that football playoff game in that semifinal to lose a talent like Cohen Preby, at least here early in the season.
Well, just, that point guard spot is such a it's just, you got another coach out there in my mind when you got the right kid playing.
And he's played
point.
so much varsity basketball.
Yeah, just from the leadership standpoint, that it can drive practice, it can drive a game, it can win or lose you a game based on how those point guards control things for you. It's not another coach out on the floor. It's what you want. And he's been such a big part of that for the 4 years that he's played. Unfortunately, you get dinged up in the injury, so I'm certain. You want to look to have those guys back because they're such a key cog in your team. So you got to battle through those injuries, and we talk all the time. It's the injuries and sicknesses that can totally change that record. It goes up and down because of that stuff.
Merrill, we mentioned they fell to East in their conference opener, but they had a thriller last night. For the second straight year, they pulled out a W over Shawano last night, 54-53. E.J. Wykes had 22 points, 9 of 10 from the field, including the game-winning basket with 3 seconds to go. And I'm sure you remember last year they played Shawano on the road, and Wykes was able to drill a 3-point field goal at the buzzer to win it, so he beats them for the second straight year. I think Shawano has had enough of E.J. Wykes.
Yeah, they'll be happy with graduation.
And also heard from Coach Troy Pieper, and they're going to be closer to full strength from now on. I think that, again, when you look at the depth of this conference, and E.J. Wykes is just a terrific, we had him on during the football season, and he had a great football campaign. He's a terrific basketball player. When you look at Merrill in their last season in the Valley, they have a really solid team as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was able to see them play live against Newman earlier in the season.
Right.
And they got up and down the floor well. They, Coach Pieper creates this atmosphere of it's fast paced, both on the offense and defensive end, and then they add in that physicality that they have amongst their players, and you see that come out, you see that show, and so at the end of the day, I think so much for these teams is on that scoreboard. It could be an ugly win, it could be a pretty win, it could be a last second shot win, whatever it may be. It's getting those W's is a big deal when that's added into the computer. So, to do it 2 years in a row is kind of impressive that it happened those 2 times. But nice win versus Shawano for them, and looking to stay hot. They got Medford coming up and looking to stay hot against them.
Wisconsin Rapids has not played a conference game yet. Last night they fell to Sparta 60-56. They're still looking for their first win, but they've lost. Again, they've been playing some pretty tough non-conference opponents. They played at Mosinee. They played at Eau Claire North. They've don't know yet, but they're 0-5, and obviously you want to get that first win if you're Rapids.
Yeah, I mean, and it isn't going to get any easier playing at West on Friday.
Yep.
So they, and then after Christmas break, they jump out with some more non-conference team.
They play at the Just a Game Field.
I think it's DeForest and Reedsburg.
And then they play East after that.
Yeah, so not an easy run here. I mean, they're when I watched them last year a couple times, it was their guard play that made them go.
Yeah, they were a team that hit a lot of three-pointers. They tried to use that to their advantage.
Yep, but at this point, we're almost going on the Christmas break. You really want to get that first W because you can just have that feeling of relief that the right things that you're doing in practice are building on it. Until you get it, unfortunately, there's some angst, there's some anxiety, there's that extra pressure to go get that. So for them, I guess for us as spectators, a little bit unknown because you can jump around the different parts of the state out of central Wisconsin. What I learned when I was coaching, and there's a big difference in the styles of play, whether it's how the game is called, whether it's the teams you're seeing. And sometimes it doesn't matter if you're playing a team that's middle of the pack in their conference, maybe their conference is stronger. So, it makes a big difference and too tough to judge, I guess, early on with all those non-conference opponents.
Great Northern Conference. Rhinelander off to a perfect start. They're 5-0, 2-0 in the league. Mosinee 5-1 overall, 1-0 in the league. Medford, Antigo, and Pines 1-1 in conference. Pines 5-2, 3-2 for Medford, 4-1 for Antigo. Tomahawk and Lakeland looking for their first wins in league. Mosinee had a good win on the road at Medford. Handed Medford at the time their first loss, 68-57. Treve Stoffel, 24 points, 9 boards, 5 assists. Braden Reinke had 19 points. Carson Balgord, 15. Sebastian Anderson had 7 points, but added 11 rebounds. Mosinee then played over that Kaukauna event as well Saturday. Fell to Freedom 80-61. Reinke was really the force for Mosinee in that game. 18 points and 17 rebounds. You had Rhinelander beating Pines, which I was impressed that Rhinelander beat Pines by 17, 65-48, because Pines, I think, is a better team this year. We saw them at the turkey shoot. Also, Antigo earned a win against Lakeland, 57-53. Gus Schussler had 26. Mitch Myers, 16. Ethan Buckman, 10 for Antigo. So, I guess generally, I've been impressed. Rhinelander beat Ashland 76-34. They're not just winning. They're winning by pretty good margins. Mosinee obviously is, again, very solid. I think Treve Stoffel is one of the best athletes here in central Wisconsin. He had a great football season. And then Reinke putting up the double-double is very impressive as well. It looks like, and of course, Medford's going to, I saw them last night against West. They're still a very solid team. They're having a little injury issue with their point guard, but I think they're going to be solid as well. So this conference, and with Pines and Antigo showing some life, I think it's a fairly solid conference up to this point.
Well, yeah, and I think these, we say they're only numbers on a piece of paper, but these scores show a lot of where these teams are at. And for Rhinelander to go and control Pines, last Friday up in that gym, up in their, their big field house, and then they come out in Ashland and handle that game easily. I think they're going to be a contender up there. Mosinee is never out. They've just developed that tradition and solid program over there that they're always in the thick of things. I think going over to Freedom and playing that non-conference game, Freedom's usually in the mix of that Division III playoff stuff, and it's a good game, whether you take it or you win it. It's a good game. Significant win against Medford, and Medford's well coached. And that's what everybody always says that. As these other teams are, but they always throw that in the mix. Whether Medford's winning or losing, they're always well coached, and I think they have a sense about them that they want to be at the top of that conference. So I think really, at the end of the day, looking for those three, with Pines kind of being your sleeper team. They could steal some from what I saw from them at the turkey shoot.
Merowith South. Always interesting. A little different this year because, of all the conferences I think that we follow, this one lost the most to graduation. I think a number of the teams did. You got Auburndale off to a 3-0 start in the league, 5-0 overall. Then you got 3 teams at 2-1 in the conference. Marathon, Assumption, and Stratford. Marathon and Assumption 2-3 overall. Stratford 4-1. Edgar 1-2 in the conference, 2-3 overall. Newman 0-3 in the league, 1-6 overall. But last night, massive game, massive win for Marathon. 62-61 over Stratford. Raiders led by 12 at half. They led by 15. Stratford came all the way back, took the lead, but in the end, Marathon finished exceptionally well to win it. And that came after Marathon had lost a 1-point game on Friday in a crossover at home, 55-54. Marathon, you just have to be so impressed with that because they obviously lost a lot to graduation. They've had a couple of hiccups early. They had a score that you don't usually see against Wausau Eastern non-conference, but yet they come off a tough loss to Rib Lake. They go to an undefeated Stratford team, but it's always a massive game. To get that win last night, just huge for Coach Jacobson.
Well, and if you look at their stats, they don't have like massive double-digit scores and people putting up the numbers that some of those seniors that they had last year that got lost to graduation. So I think you're going to see a Marathon team just based on how they do things, how they work, what I've seen out of the functionality of their coaches and players and their program, that's just going to keep getting better as the year goes on. So, yeah, did they lose to 1 point by Rib Lake? They're going to learn something from that. They're going to build and get better. They're going to scratch and claw some of these, and you're not going to be able to overlook them, even though everybody's like, they're down. They lost it. It's not that. They took one from a Stratford team that's going to also be a contender at the top of this conference. And give Auburndale credit. They're playing consistent. They're undefeated in conference at 3-0 and undefeated at 5-0 overall. And it's just this methodical owning of these games that they come out and play, and they've had some significant scores too there.
And one thing that's jumped out, we had 2 1-point games in the crossovers on Friday with Edgar beating Prentice 74-73, Rib Lake over Marathon 55-54. Last night you had Marathon beating Stratford 62-61. You had Assumption beating Edgar 60-59. And you have to say, and I know that you've talked about him, JT Schlafer. He had 25 last night against Edgar. He had 30 points. What was that? Where's my notes here? 31 in the game against Swamigan before that. You talked about Assumption being maybe a team that's going to be a factor in this league.
Well, I think they have a very good junior class. Those kids have been playing since they're freshmen. They've got athleticism on that team. They've got kids that can put the ball in the basket. They got kids that run the floor well, that get up in your face defensively from the grittiness that they have of their physicality on the floor, and I think they're always going to be in the thick of things. And I know early on in their Cranberry Classic they took a couple, but they beat Shawamigan, they beat Edgar. They have Marathon on Monday. And then Amherst, Bonduelle, both those teams will be good battles for them over the Christmas break. And I think, they have enough scoring punch to do damage in this conference, and another viable opponent. As my props to Edgar, too. I think they're going to be a team progressing. They're still they got some leg with their football legs. It takes some time.
And everybody in this conference has talent. I mean, Newman, what Quincy Fender's done coming back from that ankle dislocation, he was outstanding in the first game where they won. He had 30 points against Abbotsford. This Newman team, between Fender and Piffner and Liam McCarty, they got some firepower. They're going to knock some teams off.
Yeah, they're everybody that tells me, I know Newman, where they finished last year, they'll say, and then the next word's out of my mouth, but I worry about them coming at us.
Yeah.
They've got that punch. They play loose. They play by the seat of their pants a little bit. So you don't know, are they going to come and take it to the basket and kick it for a three? Are they going to dump it down on the big guy after you get the double? They have some athleticism and some offensive firepower. I think they still just need a little bit more time together, because it's every time they get healthy, somebody's sick or another injury occurs, so they're battling through that. But as Quincy and Lucas Piffner and those guys get more time together and all get back into their roles and the way they play, it's another viable team. So right now we've just basically labeled this as a nice dogfight from 1 through 6. So
Merriwood North, Rib Lake is the only undefeated. They take a big step forward by winning that Marathon. That's a game over every other team in the league, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it makes, especially when they lost enough to graduation and weren't expecting to maybe be on the top of that conference this year. So for them to sit at 3-0, they significantly beat Athens, who's in the middle of the pack. I'll be interested to see how they do against Abbey, because Abbey's I haven't seen a lot of Merriwood North games, but I watched them play Newman, and I thought those guys, the pace they played at, was impressive, as well as when those shots went up, the number of kids coming in recklessly with their bodies to get to the basket was just impressive. Somebody was coming and trying to tap it back at the rim if it was even close, where they've got some goaltending calls out of it.
CWC East, let's like the girls. Bonduelle and Whitburn, both 3-0 in the conference. Bonduelle 5-0, Whitburn 4-1. Whitburn beat Shiocton on Thursday and beat Wyowega Fremont last night. Bonduelle beat Menominee Indian and also Manawa. Jet Rogowski had 30 points in that win for Whitburn in Thursday's win over Shiocton. You had Iola Scandinavia, Shiocton both 2-1, so obviously that was a good win for Whitburn. Amherst and Menominee Indian 1-2, Manawa, Wyowega, Fremont 0-3. But again, Bonduelle and Winterberg Burnham would seem to have it going on the hardwood.
Yeah, be a war. Last year I know Bonduelle kind of took the top of that conference on their own, but two nice wins. Shiocton's always Coach Schmidt, his brother, coaches over there at Shiocton, so they're always well coached and a formidable team. So a 76-64 win over Shiocton's a nice win to turn around and own Wyowega Fremont on the road. I think they're getting the their guard positions are just getting a lot of production and making a big difference why they're off to that 4-1 start and that 3-0 conference record. And they're going to be up in the thick of things throughout the year as we go in that conference.
And CWC North, we talked Northern Lutheran. They are in first place, 2-0 in the conference, 4-3 overall. Boulder and Tigerton are 1-0 in the conference. White Lake 1-1. Gresham and Marion are 0-2. And as we talked about, Northern had the game against Michigan Lutheran on Friday. They fell 80-72. They bounced back with a 62-35 win over Illinois Lutheran on Saturday. And then last night they defeated White Lake. Again, they were both 1-0 in the conference going into that game, and Northern Lutheran beat White Lake 55-39. Just judging by our conversation, I think there's confidence that they have a good chance of winning that conference.
Right. And what I liked that Andrew shared was that, I put up points in this game. I didn't have points in this game. I think that's the mark of a team that can play through the different adversities you have when your top scorer is not having the night he could, or he's dishing more, or what. You need that versatility because that keeps teams on their toes, and it shows that you can beat teams in more than one way with just coming straight forward of what's seen on paper. And so I think they have the confidence to win it. I think it's something that seems very desired. And they're off to a good start, and I think you'll see more things with Marion being 0-2 already. I think they can take that game on Friday and take more ownership of the wins in that conference that they're going to get.
It's time. The folks have been waiting an hour and 40 minutes for our hockey, and I'm not going to get through this show without having hockey.
All right.
It's time for hockey.
Well, you want to take a nap?
No.
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 I'm just kidding.
We're going to go through the hockey here, and then we'll talk about the upcoming games on the hardwood. But it was a big week in hockey because it was the Marathon Cup week, and that was, again, a terrific tournament over at Greenheck Turner, over at DCE. And Wausau West, for the 18th straight year, wins the Marathon Cup title. It was not easy. On Thursday in the semifinals, Mosinee took them to overtime, but the Warriors won it 2-1. Chase Crass had the overtime game winner. And then on Saturday in the championship round, Warriors faced DC Everest. Everest had beaten East Merrill United 3-1 in the semifinals. Everest had a 2-1 lead after Thomas Passano had a pair of goals in the first period for the Evergreens. But then the Warriors scored 3 times in the second and won it 4-2. And then West kept the momentum last night as they rolled past EMU 13-0. 11 different Warriors scored in that game, 54-9 edge in shots. So Wausau West and DC Everest are 3-1 in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Stevens Point, the number 1 ranked team in the state, undefeated. They are 2-0 in the conference. Wisconsin Rapids 1-1, Marshfield 0-2, EMU is 0-4. Also in hockey last night, Mosinee. I was impressed with Mosinee. They played well against West, almost ended the long streak on Thursday. They won the consolation round on Saturday, 8-1 over EMU, and then they defeated DC Everest last night, 3-2. Good game. Elliot Yurkovsky had 2 goals, including the game winner with 3:36 to go. Griffin Bonnell had 37 saves for the Evergreens. Great outing, not quite enough. Aiden Karst, 27 saves for Mosinee as well. So, again, great Marathon Cup. Wausau West playing some really good hockey, and weather permitting, they go to Chippewa Falls tomorrow night in a game that we would have here on 98.9. I'm not holding my hopes up right now, judging by the weather, but West playing some great hockey. Also tomorrow, DC Everest takes on Stevens Point on the road, 3-1 in the conference. Everest 2-0 Stevens Point, so also another big one. And also want to mention the Central Wisconsin Storm. Saw them on Saturday, another impressive win against St. Croix Valley. By a score of 6-2. The Storm are now 6-1. They defeated Cooley Region 7-0 last night. They are ranked number 2 in the state of Wisconsin. Real quickly, the top 6 from Wisconsin Prep Hockey: Division 1, Stevens Point number 1, Brookfield number 2, Hudson number 3, Neenah Hortonville Menasha number 4, Notre Dame Academy number 5, and Eau Claire Memorial number 6. Division 2, Tomahawk, and it's interesting because Tomahawk has struggled in basketball, but right now they have really a terrific hockey team. They made it to the state tournament a year ago, and they look even better this year. They have been stellar. They're number 1, McFarland 2nd, Regis Altoona McDonald 3rd, Baldwin Woodville 4th, River Falls 5th, Somerset 6th. And in the girls, Bay Area is number 1, the Storm number 2, Hayward number 3, Superior 4th, Lakeshore number 5, and St. Croix Valley, who the Storm beat on Saturday, is ranked number 6. So we'll have the Storm in action on Saturday here on 98.9 WXCO, starting with the pregame show at 5:20 and the opening face-off at 5:30 against ECA. I'll be continuing my travels, heading to Eau Claire.
They're never ending.
They never end. So that's our hockey report. Anything you want to add?
Well, I'm always impressed, and I was talking with a couple of the teachers that we've had that, whether they've been in the public school system and were part of some of those hockey programs for a little while. Now they've come on the tail end of their teaching careers, and we were talking about the scheduling. And I think it's always so impressive, the challenges that both the Storm and the West program put out there in terms of their non-conference schedules and who they play and who they go up against and how they constantly challenge themselves, because we go back and forth and we debate scheduling. Right. I just think it's a big deal who you play, because that toughness built from those schedules get you where you want to be, or at least get you that fight. And I think I am always impressed with that, because it's easy to do it another way, or easy to manipulate it.
It's easy to pad so you have a great record at the end.
Yeah.
Sometimes you may have a worse record, but you're better prepared for the ultimate goal.
And it's not easy at the same time for a program and players and coaches to be like, yeah, when people ask you, share your record, and you got to say what it is, and you've taken a couple because you've played a stronger schedule. But at the end of the day, when you roll into that end of the year, it's a big deal that schedule was challenging and tough.
All right, let's jump right into the schedule for the hardwood here, boys and girls basketball. Let's start with the boys coming up this weekend. Obviously, I think looking ahead to Friday, the big one is in the Wisconsin Valley Conference, Marshfield at Wausau East.
And I think for that's going to be the war. I mean, you've got scores on both teams. You got teams that have established themselves with a foothold of that they want to be at the top of that conference. You got strong senior classes coming through. It'll be interesting to see, because if you look at record-wise right now, East is out there. They're doing they're rolling the table on things.
They're not just winning; they're winning impressively.
And Marshfield, record-wise, looks a little choppy. So it'll be interesting to see is how that all formulates. Again, it's going to be a Valley War. Going to be a fun one, and interesting to see what people say. I'd also, and the first one is always nice. I think I have my notes correct. It's at East.
Yes.
Correct. So that's always nice to be in your home gym on those big wars on the first game.
Another interesting Valley game Friday is Everest and Spash. Everest 0-1 in conference, Spash 0-1 in conference. Spash lost again last night to Eau Claire Memorial in non-conference. These are teams with high expectations. You don't want to be 0-2, and especially Stevens Point, because they lost at home the West in their conference opener. This again is at home. If they lose again at home, that's a big red flag.
Yeah, it's in both teams. It'll see how we play out. Spash, they have the all week hit is lingering yet. That's going to be after January, and changes maybe the complexity of that team a little bit. And for Everest right now, fighting through some of the football injuries, so it'll be interesting to see where this first matchup goes, because the second time they match up, they could be different teams once those kids come back from injuries or WIA rules or whatever it is that. Well, you know what I mean. It's holding them to a certain spot where they can't participate. Yeah.
Right. Jaden Alwee.
Yeah, I mean it's a different
6 feet 9 inches tall, outstanding athlete. I know. I was talking to the folks in Stevens Point last Friday. He's coming very, very soon. Yeah. He's practicing. He's gonna be a difference maker.
That's what I'm saying. Where we have players on a lot of these teams that can make a difference in injury, sickness coming back. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think what you said, significant game for both teams to get that W.
Great Northern Conference. You got. Medford is playing a non-conference game at Merrill, which is always interesting for Merrill and for Medford. It'll be a very interesting matchup coming up tomorrow, weather permitting, a future conference matchup as well. But then you get back into the conference on Friday. Antigo at Mosinee. Antigo had that nice win over Lakeland. Antigo again, looking better this year. I think 4-1 overall. Are they for real? We're going to find out very quickly when you go to Mosinee against a very good Mosinee squad. Also coming up, got Tomahawk and Rhinelander. We mentioned the fact that Rhinelander off to a fantastic start. That should be a W, but at the same time, I'm curious to see that as they continue to dominate like they have been, how good they're going to be. And then Pines and Lakeland. And Pines, I still think is going to be a team that's going to be a team to keep an eye on in that conference.
Yeah, I think Pines can hold their own against the teams that are struggling a little bit at the bottom of that conference right now, and I think they're going to pick up one or two here, just getting somebody sleeping on something. Mosinee versus Anago, I think, you will see if Anago has anything. I think Mosinee going to come out and control that game just based on who they've been and what they've been in that conference, that there's going to be expectations there that is their game, and there's no other way to look at it. The Merrill Medford one's always a fun one, going across Highway 64 there. I think that's always a battle. Those teams have a rivalry, even though they're in different conferences.
And a potential playoff.
Yeah.
I think they're in the same division.
Yep. I think it'll be a fun one to watch to see how it plays out.
Merriwood South, I mean, we talked about all 6 of these teams really, I think, beat each other on any particular night. Friday, Marathon at Newman, a game that we'll have right here on 98.9 WXCO. I'm curious to see. Maybe Newman has an opportunity to get that offense going, but Marathon has to feel a lot more confident after that win against Stratford. You got Stratford and Edgar, and both teams lost by 1 point last night, and now they face each other. Auburndale and Assumption. I think, again, Auburndale off to a great start, but Assumption starting to pick it up with their couple of wins. And then Monday, another full slate of activity in the Merriwood South. Stratford at Newman, another game we'll have here on WXCO. Again, tune into all these broadcasts. Assumption is at Marathon, and Edgar at Auburndale. I mean, again, we love it when these Merriwood South teams play each other, and we get a full dose over the next few days.
Well, I like some of the contrasting styles, like the Auburndale Assumption a little bit. You got Assumption who plays pretty high-paced. Auburndale wants to stay in their way. Same thing with the Newman Marathon game. Newman's going to want to get up and down the floor. Marathon's going to play their style of basketball. And Edgar Stratford's just a physical battle. I mean, things trickle over and on from the football field that get those teams warring. And it'll be interesting to see what we're talking about from Friday night, because that could change. That'll change. And then same thing, rolling around right into Monday with those games over break, because
all these teams could go 2-0, and all these teams could go 0-2.
If you said, hey, pick your winners, I can't. It's too deep of a conference, which is the fun about watching this one. I think it's going to be interesting to see how those Monday and Friday games play out.
Exactly. Let's go to the girls, because we only have a few minutes left here. The Valley has a big night on Friday. Spash at Everest, West at Rapids, East at Marshfield. Actually, the most interesting game to me there is West and Rapids. I do think that those teams have some talent, but they've struggled so far. And I think for a team like Wassa West, they need to win that game.
Yeah, I think we talk about it, that you've got to get the W, because you're just strategically looking where you're going to be in the conference. Without it, it's a big win. And I know those coaches are going to emphasize that. So that should be a war. But I think for Rapids and West, you want to get jockeying to keep your position in the conference at an okay spot. And this is a game that you need to do it in.
Merriwood South, again, got some great conference games. Again, weather permitting tomorrow. Assumption at Marathon, again, undefeated Assumption, once beaten Marathon. Big test. Again, for Marathon, I'm curious to see if they, when you win, you grow confidence. You get better just with that. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Marathon does. Got Stratford, who's been outstanding as well, at Newman. Edgar at Auburndale as well tomorrow.
Well, my most intriguing was the Assumption Marathon game. I think I like Coach Schneider's answer to, they have some pressure, but we're going to do some things too. So the confidence that, hey, we're going to create some hiccups and styles of play that they haven't seen that I want to bring to the table. So interesting to see who comes out on top. And if, Assumption with the marks and the scores are better on paper, but I think Marathon can give them a game.
I don't know. What have we missed here? Anything else? We got about a minute and a half. I don't want to rush right to the finish line without allowing you to give some thoughts on what we may have missed. Maybe anything you're looking at, anything on your mind?
Well, some of these conferences have games over the break.
Yep.
And I teach enough where kids are exhausted at this point. They want their break time. I'm curious to see how that's going to play out.
Are you talking about the Monday games?
Yeah, yeah, because most teams are on Christmas break. Right. And, we alluded to it with Coach Schneider that it's a different ball game when you have a day of school. Now, everybody's in the same boat for the most part, because I don't know anybody that has school on Monday, but I'm always interested with how the kids come to play on that. You could sleep in. You get up and play video games. You're eating a little bit more. You're slushing around on the couch. Who has a shoot around? Who gets the kids up early? Who thinks sleeping in is better? There's a little bit of strategy involved in.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.